one bane of my existence growing up was asthma. From infancy, I had severe asthma. Even, it's hard for me to exactly remember. I'd probably have to ask my mom or something. You know, I know from the age of 2 I was regularly taking Ventilon through the day, but I don't know exactly how much that was. From when I can remember more specifically, so say I'm, 8, 9, 10, 11, coming into that kind of range where I have better memory, I'd have a Ventilon in my school bag, a puffer, one at home, 2 or 3 stored under the bathroom sink, one in the car. I'd keep one on me at all times. And I was taking it for decades, 30, 40, 50, 60 times a day. Like an incredible amount. And still I was wheezy. Still I was struggling. So it was terrible. In the nighttime, I would put it right next to my bed, and it became almost autopilot. I would wake up from being too wheezy every couple of hours. I'd just reach over, take a couple of puffs. That would soothe it enough that I would be able to fall back asleep. I mean, just terrible. And because the mind is so much affected, it's uncomfortable to not be able to breathe. And then the mind is also affected by that, which is also stress. So more stress, more asthma. So it was like this sort of whirlpool going down. Of course, doctors prescribed me different things at different times. Pulmicort and other things, other medications. And I did all sorts. As I grew up, I did chiropractic adjustments, I did reiki, I did herbs, I did all sorts of stuff. I even went into a kind of pretty strong time-restricted feeding, gluten-free dairy, gluten-free vegan diet at a certain point, and still nothing, no change. So when I did my first water fast, about 7 or 8 years ago, I had then done 35 years of just 50 puffs a day, and often uncomfortable, and it's crippling and horrible, and sometimes perhaps even life-threatening, very difficult. Anyway, so I came into that fast, and the first 3 or 4 days, I still just took the puffer almost as usual, but I saw that it was decreasing. I just didn't need it. And then perhaps, say, day 5 through day 15, maybe 1 puff a day, 2 puffs a day, something like this, which was unheard of for me. So I knew something was happening. And then after day 15 or something like that, somewhere around there, I can't remember exactly, I just didn't need it. And I kind of let it go. I might have had another 1 or 2 puffs for the whole next 2 weeks. And that was it. And then when I started eating again, I kept it with me out of lifelong habit. Like since I was a little child, I had the puffers, everywhere. I had this whole sort of mentality of, my life is at risk unless I have this with me, or certainly a great deal of discomfort and trouble and, problems. So I kept it with me for like a year, but I never used it. And now, I don't think I have one. Maybe I have some old one somewhere, packed away, but I don't think so. Since that time, in the last 7 or 8 years, I've never used a puffer. I've had once or twice where I've been a tiny bit wheezy, and I had one incident in India where I believe it was something like a healing crisis. So I got very, very sick very quickly, and I sort of ended up just being bedridden. I was only drinking water, and just a little bit of water, and I must have lost, I didn't weigh it, but I must have lost maybe 10 kilos, maybe more, in 4 days. You know, I was just pouring sweat. It was mild weather, probably say 70 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that. I guess that's something like 25, I don't know, Celsius. Yet I felt, but I was shivering with cold. And I'm a person also, at least the last decade, I think that's maybe the only time I got sick. I did a job for 6 years from 2010 to 2016, and I never missed a day. And that's common for me. Like I'm not a person who gets sick, who goes down, you know, several times a year. I don't get the flu once a year or anything like that. But this time I went down, and I had blankets and quilts. I was fully dressed with, you know, 2 socks and my jumper and everything on me, under blankets, lying down. I remember a couple times I just could not, I went to drink water, but I couldn't push myself to a sitting position. I was so weak, and the asthma was severe at that stage. So I guess what I mean to say is, in the last 7 or 8 years, I've only had one bout of asthma, and I think that it was something like a healing crisis. Now, why do I think that? Because I had an extreme experience of the former disease, or the former diseased state, the symptoms. I had very strong asthma. I could barely breathe. It was quite hellish. But through this part of my body, all around the back and front, I was pouring sweat. I remember my friend Ajita came in, and he asked me if I'd spilled water through the bed. You know, no, it was just sweat. It was all through the blankets, the sheets, all my clothes drenched into the mattress. Like I was pouring liters of sweat in those 4 days. And it was mostly coming from this area. And what I imagine may have happened, I don't know this, I'm not a doctor, and it was just in hindsight, I was thinking about it, that, you know, if for more than 3 decades you're taking 50, 60 puffs, you know, at least 30 or 40 puffs every day, sometimes 50 or 60, of Ventilon into the lungs, and sometimes other medications through the lungs like Pulmicort, maybe the body at that time took advantage of that experience, that water fasting experience, and just cleared it, just pushed it all out. I don't know that for sure, but that was my internal sort of intuition of the fact. Anyway, the key point to realize is I suffered terribly from asthma. And I know that some people out there are suffering terribly from asthma right now. I did a 30-day water fast after trying a million things for more than 30 years. And after 30 days of a water fast, I no longer had asthma. And except for those 4 days in India, I've never had it since. I don't carry a puffer. I don't think about it. I breathe free. So I hope this video contributes to your understanding. I hope that if you do have some COPD or something like that, that it gives you some hope and something to try. All right. Thank you, my friends. All the best. May all good things come to you.